What's up? Welcome in Hoge and Jahns with you as we bear down on the final preseason game. It's here, Jahns. How excited are you?
Clever. The final
I know.
preseason game?
Yeah.
I won't be there. That's how excited I am about it.
Wow. Hey, I missed the third one last year too, but I was at a wedding. My cousin got married.
I was at a wedding. I am trying to balance out football writer duties and parent coach duties. We have a jamboree this weekend. I'm going to miss a lot of my son's football games because they play on Sundays.
Yes, I am too. My son's playing flag football for the first time.
Oh, he's going to love it. Absolutely love it. And the father in me is going to eat at me.
Yeah.
I'll be a bit distracted in the press box. So I'm going to skip this last preseason game. I'm going to go watch my son during this huge scrimmage day.
Yeah, what's a jamboree? I don't know what that means.
I don't know why they call it the jamboree. There's 4 teams that come together for live tackle scrimmages, and they're all very contained, very controlled, but I want to be there for my son. So you enjoy the 15, 20 snaps of Justin Fields. I'll actually watch them before I go. Then I'll hit the road, but enjoy the Bills game.
Well, I approve. Bill Belichick would not approve, but I approve.
In the words of Jay Cutler, don't care, Bill.
Yes, fair enough. No, I think that's awesome. So, well, regardless, the game goes on, and I'm sure you'll at least watch it later, and we'll talk about it next week. Whatever happens, final roster decisions coming. And speaking of that, we have a special guest on today that you're definitely going to want to hear. Because a very interesting conversation on a lot of these roster decisions. We've already recorded it, and we're going to drop it here for you real quick. But first, follow us on Twitter at Adam Hoge, at Adam Jahns. Of course, all the coverage, assuming Kevin Fishbane's still going to the game Saturday on The Athletic, theathletic.com/Hoge and Jahns. I'm sure some texts will be exchanged about how you're not there, but
have fun at my expense.
Kevin, actually, shout out to Kevin. There's an assist from Kevin on this episode today because he helped set this whole thing up. So Kevin's on my good side. Not that he's ever on my bad side.
But who's the closer?
Yeah, there was a debate about who was closing this thing.
Closers
wasn't me.
Coffee.
It definitely was not me, that's for sure. But regardless, you can find us on CHGO too. And we got a lot of coverage both before this last preseason game and on Saturday we'll have pre and post for you. And I will be there for that. All right, so the special guest today is Josh Lucas, the Bears, let's see if I can get this right, former director of player personnel. And he was
Ryan Pace's right-hand man.
Yeah. He was quickly hired and brought over when Ryan Pace got hired. He was hired, like, I don't know if he was the first hire, but
I believe he was.
I think he was, to be the right-hand man. They obviously, you guys all know the story. A lot of it went well for a while, and then it didn't at the end, and now Ryan Poles is here with his staff. But, before anybody, because I get it, and I'm sure it's probably already on Twitter, why would we listen to what this guy has to say, right? It's super interesting. And, Josh is pretty candid and, not afraid to talk about things. And just from a talent evaluator standpoint, he really takes you behind the scenes in how some of these decisions are made, these tough decisions that have to be made in the next couple days. And then, of course, we talk about Justin Fields. Let's not forget that the last regime with Josh Lucas drafted Justin Fields, Cole Kmet, Jalen Johnson, Darnell Mooney, a lot of these players that still figure to stick around for a while, or at least are at the point where they could get contract extensions. And we, of course, asked them about all that stuff too. So,
if you like scout talk, football talk, there is so much meat on the bone in this episode right now.
It's I think our listeners especially. I mean, we know our listeners pretty well at this point.
Yeah,
you guys are going to like this. Trust me. It's super interesting and it's lengthy too. We had a good long conversation with them. So here he is, Josh Lucas. All right, time now to bring in a former friend, still friend, but former Bears director of player personnel, Josh Lucas, joining Hoge and Jahns with us right now. What's up, Josh?
How are you guys doing? Former friend.
I know.
Come on, we're
Not former, current friends.
friends.
Current friend. I think I tripped over the former title I was trying to spit out for you. We're still friends. Everyone's good here. But thank you for jumping on with us. We appreciate it. With cut down day coming, we thought it'd be a great idea to talk to somebody who's entrenched in these decisions every year.
Yeah, this is heavy payload, if you're in the personnel department right now. And it's not so much the 53, really the 69 you're trying to get to. You got your 53 and then you got your 16 practice squad spots, but you are monitoring the back end of 31 other rosters, and the volume is intense, especially now that they've gone to one cut. It's a lot of heavy lifting, long hours, very stressful. You're in that building for 12, 16 hours a day, no different than the players. It's camp. You're looking forward to the end of it. You want that first season to get here. And really when final cuts are made, you make your final practice squad decisions. It's a huge sigh of relief because, there's a intense, laborious amount of work that goes into this process. So I'm looking forward to watching from the sidelines and see the moves that the Bears make.
Can you take us into that process? Like when you're you worked on the pro side extensively. So when you're eyeing the back end of those rosters, and also considering okay, if we waive this guy, maybe this team will claim this guy. How much time is spent like that? You build lists of players you may like, and can you just maybe elaborate on how much is involved when you're looking at the other teams?
For sure. So you got really two lists. You're essentially boiling it down to guys you would claim to put on your 53 that would upgrade your 53. And then you're looking at guys that, you would want to add to your practice squad. Now, what's really difficult about the latter, if a guy gets cut, he does not get claimed. More than likely, he's going to go back to the team that he just, the team's practice squad that he just completed camp with. He's got the relationships with the coaches. He knows the offense. He knows the defense. It can be very difficult to get those guys to come over. So what you're looking for is, do you have a relationship with the player, with the agent? I remember in our 7 years in Chicago, this was Champ Kelly's territory. He had very good relationships with a lot of agents, and we would always kind of try to poach one or two guys that the original team, wanted the guy back for the practice squad, but we'd be able to sway him and, maybe pay him a little extra money, whatever you had to do to get him over. And then obviously the main list, though, guys that you would claim and add to your 53, because that, if you're bringing a guy in, that means you got to cut another guy. So those are the two primary lists. The process starts, in the summertime, building the bubble list, the back end list for each team. Some teams narrow it down. It might be 10, 15 guys that you're looking at. Some teams make it, a more, exhaustive list. It might be 35 guys that you're looking at. And you spread that out between mostly your pro scouts, maybe your scouting assistants, and then even your college scouts who are out on the road. Maybe you give them one team each. It's a collaborative effort. And then by the time we get to this third final preseason game, I would say that list is probably pretty small for them. Realistic guys that are going to get cut that could add value to the 53. There's a lot of communication going on constantly. Obviously, throughout camp, you're having personnel meetings, every 3 or 4 days to establish your 53 and then the next 16 guys for the practice squad. You try to get as much of the work out of the way before it's actually cut down day because it happens so fast. And now with one cut, think about that. You're cutting down 90 to 53, 31 teams, the amount of names you have right there that you got to plow through. So you better be very organized on the front end, and your list better be pretty small. And then your GM, director of player personnel, assistant director of player personnel, they can't watch every single guy. So you better hand them a list that's manageable. In that target field should be pretty narrow. So you're not stressing those guys out as well. Cause the GM and assistant director of player personnel, they only have, so much time to grind through all that tape.
So kind of a two-part question here. You got coaches that some really value the preseason. It seems like it's then some that just don't. How, I guess part of the question is what kind of mistakes can be made in scouting during the preseason when, everything can be very vanilla out there on the field, and maybe a guy looks really good, but you don't necessarily. It can be hard to see how much they're really being tested. And then how much did losing the fourth preseason game change things for you guys? Because obviously it's one less game to evaluate, but a lot of that game was, those back end roster guys.
Yeah. So the mistake could be made two ways. I could probably, narrow this down. Lack of information with regards to video. You want to make sure this player you're targeting, especially if it's a rookie who doesn't have previous NFL tape, there's got to be enough exposure where you really feel good about the player, because you can have one really good preseason game where you're playing 12 plays, and then maybe the guy doesn't play the next 2 weeks because of an injury, and 12 plays just isn't enough unless you really have conviction about this player from college. And this is why teams will purposely hold out guys and not play them in preseason games. If they know they're going to be guys they really want on the practice squad, they don't want to get them claimed if they expose them to the waivers, and they'll limit their reps. I've seen that over and over again in my 20 years. Well, they'll actually limit the reps to protect a guy to make sure that he doesn't get claimed. So the mistake can be made if you don't have enough film. And the other thing that, you're just watching film, you might not necessarily know the character of the player. The character is so important. I've seen so many guys come into this league with plenty of talent to be good NFL football players. They don't make it past year 2 or 3 because of their makeup. That could be their ability to handle adversity, the ability to push through when times are tough, their intelligence level, their football intelligence, whatever it is. Character can cause a guy to fail. So if you watch a guy for two preseason games and you love the tape, you also better know what you're getting. So a guy might get cut. How did he get cut? Those 3 preseason games were amazing. Why would they cut him? Well, there might be a story to that, and you better know that story, because one guy in a 53-man locker room can cause a lot of issues. So the mistake could be made on not enough film and not knowing who the player is, from a character standpoint. Those would be the 2 simplest answers I could give you.
Adam and I joke around about this a bit. Like we're fans at this time of year become extremely enamored with certain players, and they're like, you can't cut him. He's not going to clear waivers. Well, most of the time, 95% of the time, that player does clear waivers, and he's immediately added to the practice squad, just like we were talking about. But how different is it when it's a quarterback? I can't recall having this conversation about a quarterback like a Tyson Bagent, who undrafted guy, he's impressing in the preseason, has even been better in certain practices. Is the quarterback different than that 5th or 6th safety? Maybe take us inside what those conversations would be like when you have a young, promising quarterback who's playing well in preseason games. Now everybody sees it, but you still have a PJ Walker that you may want to keep around. What would you do?
Yeah, I think, I'm guessing you already know the answer to this question. That is the premier position in football. If you have a quarterback in your building, I don't care if he's a 6th round pick, a college free agent, I don't care if you signed him on a 3-day rookie tryout. If you have conviction inside that building that this quarterback could be a potential backup for you and add value that way, maybe a long-term potential starter, you do not expose them to waivers. It's as simple as that. You can find room on a 53-man roster. Every GM's going to tell you, we brought in so much talent. This is going to be the hardest cut we've ever made. Every GM's going to tell you the same thing. The reality is those last few roster spots, they're very interchangeable players. Your wins and losses are coming from your first 30 players. They're not coming from your last 10. Those guys, they're interchangeable. Obviously, I don't want to minimize it. Every spot's important. But if you got a quarterback and you have conviction in the building that he has the processing post-snap to operate in this league. He has physical attributes. You know, if he doesn't have outstanding physical talent, then it's got to be in between the ears. It's got to be the brain. If he's got playmaking ability with his legs and his arm, and what is he like in the building? Is he a leader? Is he 100% bought in? This is all he's about, because that's what you have to be if you're a quarterback in this league. If you have those intangible traits and you're showing on tape and in practice, you can move the ball down the field consistently. You do not expose them to waivers. In my opinion, it's as simple as that. So if Tyson Bagent is a guy that is doing what he did against the Colts consistently in practice, I'm not at practice. I don't know what it looks like. I don't know what they think about him as a person, but if you're excited about the person, you're excited about the practice. We've all seen what he can do in a preseason game. Trust me, there's no team has 53 players that they can't replace. You know, those back few roster spots, you make room for a quarterback.
So you're the rival scout now, and you turn on the film of that Colts game. What do you think of Tyson Bagent? Like, what do you go back to the rival front office and say about this kid if you're a team that needs help at quarterback?
So obviously what we talked about a segment ago, reality for a quarterback, I think there's 40 odd snaps in 2 games. It's not enough. I would keep the evaluation very simple, knowing that there's only 40 reps. I would tell the GM, I don't see any outstanding physical traits where he's going to be a high level playmaker with his legs. I see basic NFL skill set as far as movement, size, talent, arm talent. And I see what I like the most. I see a guy post snap that operates very quickly and efficiently. He knows where to get the ball, which is an extremely important asset and trait for a quarterback in this league. Fluid intelligence. It's easy to measure crystallized intelligence, a Wonderlic score, your IQ, grades in school. This position is all about fluid intelligence. Post snap, in a messy, dirty pocket, you got bodies around you, you got safeties rotating, and being able to anticipate, see, process information on the move with bullets flying. Obviously, 40 snaps, I can't tell you this guy's got it, but in 40 snaps, I could say he's worth continuing to watch because he might have it. And it's exciting for them, especially when you get a guy undrafted that, at that position that you think's got a bright future. So I'm willing to bet without knowing that they're pretty fired up in Hallis Hall right now.
So that was interesting because your last 2 answers, one is if you're the Bears, you just don't expose the quarterback that you assuming they like him as much as, we think they might.
Sure.
You don't expose them to waivers. But on the other hand, it's not a for sure thing if you're on the other side that you would actually use a roster spot to claim them. Do you think, just your knowledge of the league and how these things work, if Tyson Bagent were to be waived, that there would be at least one team that would be in a position to be like, well, let's take a chance on this guy because, we're pretty desperate at quarterback right now?
Would there be one team that is extremely interested in him? Absolutely. Obviously, you don't have the crystal ball. So that gets back to my original point. You just don't take the chance.
Yeah.
In my experience, watching those 2 games, and I'm just being rigorously honest here, I would not go to my GM and say, we got to claim this guy just based on those 2 games. He would be on a list to watch. Hey, let's track him, whatever practice squad he lands. That's in a vacuum. Now, that's not saying – that's with me not having any college history with this player too. Mm-hmm. It could be way different if I was the, scout that went to Shepherd College. I was pounding the table for this guy in April. We should have drafted him in the 7th round. We didn't get him as a free agent. Maybe it'd be a little different then. I'm just going off of 40 snaps. It's not enough for me personally to say, hey, I'm riding with this guy. Let's claim him if he gets cut. But I think from a 30,000 foot view, any team that is excited about a quarterback, you just don't take that chance because, like you said earlier, lose a potential high-end backup quarterback or a 6th safety or a 6th wide receiver. That to me, it's a pretty easy decision to make.
A couple more roster building questions before we get to some some Justin Fields conversation. Like, what's it like in those decision-making meetings where you have the coaches, the scouts, everybody has their favorites. These coaches have just spent weeks with these players. They might really like these young players. Maybe the scout,
the special teams guy like me, that's like, I need this guy.
Yes, and he's banging on the table. Like, he's very loud about it. Like, what are those conversations like? In like, who wins? Like, at this point, are these conversations maybe more intense than the table banging that comes before the draft?
So the angle that you really just hit on is the emotion that goes into these final cuts. Because me sitting here right now evaluating 2 Bears preseason games, 45 players that I can tell you for sure they're going to make the roster. Those last 10 roster spots, the last 5 roster spots, like I said earlier, very interchangeable. These decisions aren't going to impact wins and losses for the 2023 Chicago Bears. That's me from the outside looking in, but I also know what it's like being in there. A lot of emotion. You have ego and bias from the scouting staff on guys they drafted, and you don't want to cut guys you drafted. A guy you really pounded the table for as a college free agent, and he's close to making the team, and it gets emotional. You want him to make the team. On the coaching end, you have the special teams coach. He wants his 5 or 6 guys. He needs 2 or 3 bodies out of the linebacker and tight end room. He needs 2 or 3 bodies out of the receiver, DB, corner safety room. So you got that part of it. So like the 48-man roster versus the 53-man roster. Position coaches, they're with these players all day for weeks at a time. I think fans look at it as, hey, just cut him, just cut that guy, get this guy, cut that guy. Like, there's so much emotion, and like, these are human beings that have very close, tight relationships. If you're the tight end coach right now, and the 4th tight end's probably a position that's being talked about, is the 4th tight end good enough on 4th down, special teams, to warrant a 53-man roster spot? That's a very simple question. But then there's how close is the tight end coach to the 4th tight end? How hard is he pushing for him? And then you get into this room, and it is very emotional. I can remember several times being very upset over not getting the guy I wanted onto the 53, and now we got to wait for waivers to see if he gets to the practice squad. But I can also tell you this, in those 7 years, I can't really remember which players they were or who they were, which goes back to my original point of the significance of how important really are the 51, 52, and 53rd, guy on your team. So the reality inside the building is I talked about earlier, for the scouts and for the GM and the directors, you are tired, you're exhausted. I can remember driving from Hallis Hall right about this time in the middle of this grind, just almost being delirious. I've just watched so much tape from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. And the only break that I got in the day was to go out and watch practice for a few hours. And I remember like that felt like a vacation, like to go out in the sun and just be able to watch practice. And, you're not just grinding tape, pouring way too much caffeine into your body. And driving home being all jittery and exhausted. Like, of course you're going to have passion, when you're fighting for your guy. So it gets intense. There's arguments. I can only speak to my experience with Ryan Pace. He did a great job of being in the middle, throwing a bone to the coaching staff here, throwing a bone to the college scouts or the pro department here, mediating both sides. And I promise you, every single year, all 7 years, within 48 hours of those arguments, fights, it's all forgotten, on to game one, and it's in the past. So it's a very interesting process. Probably a lot more emotion and ego and bias than there needs to be when you're really talking about the importance of those positions. But it's I'm glad I'm a part of it. I'm glad I can talk about it now. And I think it's the same in every single building. There's so much work that goes into it. It's a process that people really, really care about.
So let's talk a little bit about QB1 instead of QB3, who might end up being QB2 at some point. But we're all guessing there. Justin Fields, because you were part of the team that drafted him and made that big move. I'm very curious, as you watched from the outside last year, what you thought about the way that this new coaching staff in particular used him, developed him, changed the offense significantly in the middle of the year to play to his strengths. Just kind of all those things as you were watching that unfold. And how do you think when it was all said and done, Justin handled it? And I guess how much better did he get?
For sure. So the first thing I'll talk about is what you alluded to, and the adjustment and the transition that was made, after the first 3 or 4 games, whatever it was. This is not related to Justin Fields. This gives me a tremendous amount of confidence of the coaches in that building, because I have been a part of organizations where the ego and the stubbornness of the coaching staff didn't allow the adjustment to the strengths of the players. And that is a huge feather in the cap to Luke Getsy, to Matt Eberflus. This isn't working. We have an extremely talented player here. How can we make this guy successful? That's what good coaches do. Justin Fields, obviously coming out of college, he showed he could do every single thing you need to do at the pro level from a physical standpoint, and the game tape that, he put on for 2 years at Ohio State. The biggest thing for me with Justin personally, and people might disagree with me on this, I thought he had to speed up his process, but a lot of that is related to the nature of Ohio State's offense, the unbelievable pass protection that they get there. You really saw it this past year with the quarterback the Texans took. It allows you to be a little more comfortable in the pocket. It allows you to be a little bit more deliberate and to allow guys to come open, where in the NFL, you don't get that luxury. You have to anticipate guys coming open. So that would have been my criticism of him coming out, and what I want to see still as regards to a consistent, productive downfield passing game. Last year, when they adjusted the offense, he clearly showed he has rare running ability for the position. He can change a game on any single play with his legs, whether it's a design run or it's a pass play and he's breaking the pocket. You can be in perfect defense, just like the D coordinator drew it up all week. All of the guys they're filling their gaps. The linebacker's in perfect position to make the play on the quarterback. And 80 yards later, he's spiking the football because the linebacker just can't tackle him. So you have a guy who can change a game even when it's not schemed up for you. That is what this league is about on offense. Quarterback play, solid offensive line, explosive playmakers, if you want to simplify it. He's an explosive playmaker. Now you got to find that balance going forward. I can't sit here and say with conviction he's going to be a top 5 passer in this league because we haven't seen it yet. Not all on him. Protection had to get better. Explosive perimeter talent had to get better. They are well on their way to doing that. It's not a finished product yet, but it's much better than it was last year with the addition of, especially with the right tackle who has a chance to be a special player, and then a guy, DJ Moore, who's already a special player. So hopefully we'll start to see the maturity, the timing, anticipation, accuracy that you need to see on a consistent basis. This is why this last thing I'm going to talk about, and I can share this because I had experience with quarterbacks in this city when the temperature gets turned up and it's not positive. It's hot, and there's a lot of negativity coming from the media and the fan base. I've seen what it can do to a quarterback. And I started to see and feel that last year after the first 3 games. I'm not on social media. I'm not on my computer a lot, but I'm aware, and I see enough to know that there was, the pressure was starting to mount. Is this guy another failed quarterback? This isn't working. And then to see him come out of that and obviously help from the coaching staff, but also, like, I never saw a guy that wavered his self-confidence. I never saw a guy that didn't believe in himself. And you have to have that in this particular market. Every NFL quarterback has to have it, but some markets are extremely hard to play in. This is one of them, and I've seen it with my eyes, what it can do to somebody. So to see him bounce out of that, that's one of the reasons we were so intrigued with him when we drafted him. We knew he was incredibly headstrong. We knew the outside narrative wasn't going to, seep into his head and let it affect his preparation and his play. So to see him go through that last year, and we all know that's not the last time he's going to go through it. He's going to have a bad 3-game streak, and the criticism is going to be intense and loud, and he's going to have to get through it again. And that's what the great quarterbacks do. And I'm extremely excited to see him play this year going forward. I would like to think that they're extremely excited about him in the building, having the first pick and then trading it. I think that shows some conviction on the player. And if they support him the right way and they get the stability of high level scheme and play calling, I think it's going to be a quarterback that Chicago is very excited about going forward.
I feel like this year's Bears kind of repeated some things that you guys did in that would be 2018. Like, they added the number 1 wide receiver. They drafted a young, promising receiver. It's not Anthony Miller, but it's Tyler Scott. Like, you already have Darnell Mooney. So you mentioned Darnell, right? There was investment on the offensive line. So I guess with your experience, like with what happened in 2018 where things took off and things started to succeed, like, what do you see maybe that's built? Like, what's your viewpoint of what's built around Justin Fields now with DJ Moore, Chase Claypool, Darnell Mooney, Tyler Scott? You still have Cole Kmet, a guy that you guys drafted who just got re-signed by this regime. Like, what do you think of the help around Justin Fields, which he needed? He didn't have last year. What do you make of it?
First and foremost, it starts up front. And I really like what they're doing up front with the additions they've made. If you go with the projected starting 5, you have 2 guys that they carried over from the previous regime, and they've added 3 new players, a left tackle, 5th-round pick last year that people are excited about. You have a top 10 pick this year who has incredible talent that Bears fans should be extremely excited about. And they went out and signed, a proven, solid, steady offensive guard. If Tevin can just figure out a way to stay on the field, and then you're moving Cody back to center, like, you really like that offensive line. That has promise to be a top 10, maybe even higher offensive line in this league if they're whole. And that's where it all starts. If you can run the ball effectively, if you can move guys off the line of scrimmage, stay ahead of the chains, stay in the down and distance, it's favorable to the play caller. And then you're putting Justin Fields with DJ Moore, Mooney, Claypool, Kmet in 3rd and manageable, 2nd and manageable. You're going to sustain drives. You're going to score points. I really like the way they're going on the offensive side of the ball, especially considering it's only year 2. Like, it's not a finished product. We weren't humming until year 4. This is only year 2 for them. They're well on their way. They're rebuilding the defense. I actually think the defense is a little bit behind the offense right now because of the front. But I see a lot of similarities. Everyone's rowing the boat in one direction right now. Everyone's coming off of a season where you're the last place in the NFL. The trick is once you have success. In my opinion, that's when Matt Eberflus and Ryan Poles, that's when their jobs really start. Because now you're really specifically on the general manager side. Right now, you're deciding who to get rid of, and then you're just acquiring talent. You have draft capital, you have high draft picks. Fiscally, you have a lot of money to spend. You're acquiring talent. You're being an evaluator. You're being a scout, as the GM, Ryan Poles. Once you have success, the building changes, and it changes fast. People, what about me? And this is players, this is assistant coaches, and this is scouts. And now you're the general manager. And this is where, for me, I got to see Mickey Loomis for years in New Orleans. Once we had success, the building changed. Now you have to manage. Now you have to keep everyone in their place, still rowing the boat in the same direction. And that can be extremely challenging. So I think they are well on their way to establishing success. I think personally, it's going to come this year. I think they're a good team right now that's going to get better. I love their schedule. 17 games. To me, they play 3 teams that have quarterbacks that can beat you, even if you're at your best, in Mahomes, Russell Wilson, and Herbert, all in the same division. I think you got 3 games against quarterbacks that are very talented and proven in this league and can beat you on any given day, and Deshaun Watson, Derek Carr, and Kyler Murray. And then you got 11 games against guys where, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, this isn't the NFL's opinion, obviously, you got the better quarterback on the field. And anytime you have the better quarterback on the field and the rosters are comparable, edge to the better quarterback team. So the schedule to me this year, especially with Rodgers leaving the division, sets up very favorably for these guys to win more games than maybe you would think by just the 53 guys on the roster. And then, this, like I said, this is year 2. Like, this is very early in the rebuild. They're doing a tremendous job. And I think, year 3, year 4 is when, if you ask the GM and the personnel people, that's when we're really going to be humming and feel great about this entire roster. So I'm bullish on the Bears.
You hear that, Adam?
Yeah.
When in doubt, go with the better quarterback, which I always do when we make those picks.
Yes.
Always.
During the regular season. Now, Josh, you make me feel really smart right now. So when Adam overthinks everything with his picks during the season, go with the better quarterback. You said 11.
Well, you still going to do that when they play the Vikings, Mr. Kirk Cousins guy over there?
Yes, I think I have in the past.
Okay, so you mentioned a couple of things that I want to touch on. It sounds like you like the Darnell Wright pick because it's kind of, they needed a rock there at tackle, and hopefully he becomes that. Obviously, he's still a rookie, so there'll be some struggles. But you also mentioned the defensive front kind of being behind right now. So to me, just as a member of the media evaluating the draft this year, the Jalen Carter thing was so fascinating to me from start to finish. And when I say start, I mean like his college, watching him in college and how freaking good he was all the time and almost effortlessly at times. And then obviously everything that played out in the winter. At the end of the day, I mean, who would you have picked in that situation? Because I think it's completely justified for them to go with the help for Justin Fields. But every day coming out of Philadelphia, we're hearing about how unbelievable Jalen Carter looks already as a rookie.
Yeah, great question. I'm going to take some liberties in this answer and kind of give you, because here's the deal. Let's just talk ball. Let's not talk makeup, character, locker room fit. Let's just talk ball. Both SEC. Extremely valuable, important positions. Both make it look easy in college. Both have the rare traits to be highly successful in the NFL. Both have some laziness on their tape. Both have some things they can definitely improve and work on. I would grade those guys very closely. I would grade Jalen Carter higher based on his Georgia film than Darnell's Tennessee film. Simple supply and demand. It is so hard to find a dominant 3 technique. So hard. They all go in the first round. Follow the names they're on the best defenses in the NFL. I saw it up close and personal when Akeem Hicks wanted to wreck a game. He's going to wreck the game, run and pass. Go over to Kansas City right now. When Chris Jones wants to wreck a game, he is going to wreck it. He is unbelievable. They line him up at defensive end, and tackles have a hard time blocking him. I've been a part of sitting in the press box watching Aaron Donald wreck a game. They're hard to find. I personally would put more premium, more value on the 3-tech over the tackle. And I just call him a tackle because I think Darnell could play left or right. He's so talented, he could play either side. I would take Jalen Carter if we're just talking ball. But that is not all you talk about when you're in the draft room. I'm not privy to the character makeup of either player. I know bits and pieces. I know what I've been told. I don't know what's true and what's not true. I'll say this. If you have significant concerns about one of those two players' character makeup and his ability to not only fit in your locker room, but his ability to maximize his potential, if you're worried about that because of something that's in his makeup, I would take the guy that's clean. 10 times out of 10, that's easy for me. But like I said, I don't know the significance of what Jalen Carter was dealing with. I don't know the makeup of Darnell Wright. So if you told me that the Chicago Bears were concerned about the makeup of the Georgia D tackle and they took the offensive tackle instead, I totally get it. I'm with them. And you move forward and you get a guy you know is going to be a high-level player for 10 or 15 years, and you're not going to have to worry about him in the locker room or off the field. I touched on it earlier. I've seen what it can do to players. You know, an easy example that you guys are all familiar with, Anthony Miller. Anthony Miller, rookie training camp in Bourbonnais. I would have bet my career that he was going to be a Pro Bowl level slot player for a long time in this league.
He was outstanding.
His rookie camp, there was a lot of people wearing Anthony Miller jerseys around Hallis Hall that first year. We thought he was ascending. He thought he was going to be a hell of a player. What he did in that camp was special. Even after his rookie year, we had high hopes for him. We thought at worst he was going to be a really good starting slot receiver. You know, if he stayed healthy, he could ascend to, you know, a Pro Bowl level. And then Anthony Miller got in Anthony Miller's way. You know, the character matters. The makeup matters. How you handle success, how you handle money, how you handle yourself in the locker room. Are you in your playbook 24/7 like you need to be, especially playing the slot receiver where there's a lot going on? Are you a great teammate? Those things can tear you down, and they can tear you down fast. You know, I bring up Anthony because it's, you know, very public. You know, obviously he got traded away from us, and, you know, he's bounced around. I think he just signed again, but that's a guy that never got to a second contract, and he should have. So long-winded way of saying, if you're concerned about a player enough because of his makeup, I have no issues, regardless of the talent, of taking that guy off the board and going with a guy who also is a hell of a talent, but you feel good about his makeup.
Speaking of second contracts and speaking of slot receivers, there are a few players on the Bears roster that you guys drafted, that you, Ryan Pace, your scouting department drafted. We already talked about Justin Fields. That's down the line, but Cole Kmet got his deal. Then there's Jalen Johnson, Darnell Mooney. What do you think of their place on this roster? Obviously, Jalen Johnson's still the number one cornerback. Then Mooney might be the number 2, number 3 receiver, depending how you want to view it. He had some injury problems, but where do you think their place on this roster is? Where do you think their place is maybe with the future of this team?
I'll start with Mooney. If his ankle is okay, foot, whatever he hurt, if he's moving at the capacity he can move at, he would be very easy for me, and he would have been very easy for us. He is consummate professional. He's exactly what you want in that room. If you're going to be critical of him, he's probably too hard on himself. I would much rather have that than a guy that doesn't have, a high, give a shit factor. He is a really good player. He's a really good person. You need multiple wide receivers. You just can't have one. That would be easy for me. Obviously, you got to make, there's a negotiation and, the money, and that all plays a big part of it. But as far as like the plan to hey, we're going to re-sign and extend this guy, Mooney would be a really easy. That would probably already have been done, I imagine, if, obviously if we were still there. Jalen, it's all about durability with Jalen. Jalen's a great person. He's extremely talented. It is really hard to find a guy that can just be a cat cover guy, follow the other team's best receiver, whether he's lined up on the left or right. They don't have a guy in that building right now that has that man-to-man cover skill. Obviously, the second-round pick, Tyreek, is extremely intriguing as a football player. I don't think he has the cover ability Jalen has. Probably a better overall football player when you bring in physicality, tackling, and everything else. Jalen is. Are you convinced? And I'm not going to get into his person. Obviously, I know a little bit about his personal injury history. If you feel good, he's going to hold up, and you feel good about his long-term longevity. Again, premier position. You don't want to put yourself where you're now you have another, green magnet on your depth chart of a have to have need. They're already going to have to spend a lot of resources on their front next year on the defensive side of the ball. So again, the player, Jalen Johnson, yes, easy. You got to be concerned about his longevity and how healthy he is. And if you feel good about that, then to me, it's an easy yes.
That's interesting. The last thing I have for you has to do with how mental health has changed in football. And as a talent evaluator, how you guys have changed in spending time and resources in looking into that, because this is something that goes way beyond football, right? But we saw last week just in Indianapolis and across the league, the Kicking the Stigma campaign that the NFL has been doing. And I know you're very involved in this side of things throughout your career. How has that been an issue, not issue, but just something that's been heightened awareness? Teams are paying more attention to it. Players are paying more attention to it. And how has it changed the evaluation side of things?
I'm glad you brought it up. First off, the heightened awareness, imperative that the NFL and all leagues heighten their awareness towards the general topic of mental health. Not something that was widely discussed early on in my career, in the building or outside the building. When you're evaluating players at colleges, just not something that came up a whole lot. We could have a whole show on this. This is a topic that's near and dear to me personally, as someone that suffers from a mental health disorder that, really, turned my life around, when I was able to finally get a hold of it. So I know the impacts of someone struggling with, whether it's depression or anxiety or PTSD, whatever it is. And then I know what kind of life's on the other end with the correct treatment and doing the work to process everything that's gone on in your life to get to the other side. So I think nationally the awareness has been heightened, and I think teams now are staffing their buildings with more mental health professionals, more on-site clinicians. I think you're seeing this at the college level too. And I really, I'm glad you asked this, because I think there's unbelievable advantage teams could get if they start training their scouts and their personnel on how to navigate this stuff when they encounter prospects who may be dealing with mental health issues or substance abuse issues. Because again, this heightened awareness is recent. So I think a lot of teams are kind of figuring out, how do we appropriately train our scouts when they go out and they know someone's dealing with this. What are the questions to ask? What are the red flags that you're looking for? What are some of the signs you see in people who are truly determined to get healthy and become, people who live healthily and serenely and successfully with these, mental health disorders. So I think we're kind of at the forefront of it. The biggest thing I can say, just without talking for too long, is, I think the heightened awareness is getting young athletes and coaches and scouts and trainers. It's being destigmatized, and I think people are more comfortable talking about some of their issues and their problems, and that's where it starts. If you're going through something, if something's really bothering you, regardless of what it is, the worst thing you can do is stuff it and keep it inside you. I know for a lot of young men, it's hard. You have an ego. You don't want to be perceived as someone who's weak, especially in this sport. You don't want to be vulnerable to somebody else. And I think the more we can destigmatize it, the more people open up about their own experiences. I think it'll get young athletes more comfortable talking about it, more willing to go down and knock on the clinician's door, at Hallis Hall or whatever, football facility they're at, and say, hey, I'm going through something right now. Because here's the deal. No matter what you're going through, there's help available. There is help available. Anyone can get better, no matter how grave it is, no matter how far down you've gone. There's help available. There's a life on the other side of what you're experiencing now that you probably can't even see or even think is possible, but it's there. And I can speak to that personally. And I'm glad you brought it up. I'm glad the NFL is continuing to push. They're having, I think, the special month this year, or like they do for cancer awareness, and the military salute that they do every month. I think it needs to be at the forefront, because mental health incidents with young people is starting to really increase in this country. And it's going to be something that's, at the forefront of everyone's attention. And the more we can encourage young people to talk and share about anything they might be going through, the further we're going to get as far as, being successful in combating this.
Yeah, I would say it even needs to be discussed a bit more.
Yeah, no doubt.
With social media, and I have children, like the iPads and the YouTube and just certain wormholes they could fall down through, and different stuff. Yeah, we're old men a little bit.
Yeah. And I would say even in high school football too.
Yeah,
right now we can do a better job with that as well. So it's an important topic, and it's just cool to see the NFL start to embrace this a little bit more. And I was just curious about sort of the back end side of it too, with the talent evaluators. And
for sure, I had a chance in May to speak to a group of NFL rookies on a particular team, and shared my personal story, and really wanted to convey, what can happen with untreated mental health, what it can lead to. And make sure they know, hey, it's okay to ask for help. Sometimes we have to surrender to win in life, and that is completely okay. And the most rewarding part of that experience is, as I was walking out of the building to get on my flight to go home, their player programs, player engagement director who had brought me in to give the presentation grabbed me and told me, one of the rookies had already come down and said, hey, I need some help with something. So,
Wow.
the more it's out and the more people can share their own personal stories, I think the easier it becomes for someone to say, hey, it's okay to ask for help. There's nothing wrong with this. We all have stuff, and I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're the first round pick making, $10 million a year. And, you think he got this amazing life, and God, I would do anything to trade positions with him. Every one of us has something. We all have family, friends, loved ones, we all have something that we're going through. And, it's extremely important to have someone to talk to, and to share what you're going through, and to help process some of these feelings and emotions that we get. Because a lot of us, and I know me personally, we weren't raised or, brought up to share our emotions and feelings in a healthy way. And that's, I don't think that's uncommon at all. So it's extremely important that we get that message out, that it's okay to talk and it's okay to ask for help.
I literally got goosebumps just hearing you say that, honestly, that somebody right away that, because if you help one player, it was 100% worth it. And I'm sure it helped more than one, but just to hear that must have been pretty rewarding.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Josh, this has been great. We kept you a little bit longer than we said we would, but the conversation was outstanding, and it's just good hearing your perspective of things, especially with some of these players that are still on the roster that you guys brought in here. And we'll have to do this again sometime soon.
Awesome. I'd love to come back. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks, Josh.
Hey, our next partner is a really cool product. Let's talk about Athletic Greens. If you're looking to get better gut health, more energy, or a stronger immune system in a really easy, natural way, you've got to check out Athletic Greens. And I'm sure you all agree that most of us are not huge fans of having to take a bunch of pills or vitamins in the morning. But with Athletic Greens, you can get rid of all of those extra vitamin bottles and finally make some room in your cabinet. Athletic Greens is an all-in-one solution, and you'll really enjoy getting your daily vitamins. So what's in this stuff? Well, with one delicious scoop of Athletic Greens, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging. All the things. And right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition, especially heading into the flu and cold season, which is way too close. It's just one scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. And to make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/Adams. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/Adams to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance.
These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. It's super easy to create a free job post on LinkedIn Jobs. You add your job, purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with the right skills and experience. You can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It streamlines the whole process. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. That's faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/Adam. That's linkedin.com/Adam to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
All right. Great talking to Josh Lucas again. And, hopefully he's not too mad that I accidentally called him a former friend. Off the top.
It could be like a nice running joke now. My former podcast partner or something.
Something tells me some Bears fans listening to this will actually appreciate that. But hey, I hope in all seriousness, I hope that people value that conversation. I thought it was fascinating. I mean, look.
Oh man,
sure. Mistakes were made in the last regime, but it's still incredibly interesting to hear that side of if you listen carefully, I think you learned a lot. Even some of the stuff that he was hinting at times with some of the former coaches and players that were in the building.
Yes. Read the tea leaves, everybody. As good of a job that I think Ryan Poles is doing right now, and Matt Eberflus, like I love the culture that he's building, especially defensively. Like this current quarterback that everybody in this city is so excited about would not be here if that last regime didn't do what they tended to do and got bold as hell in the draft and made a move up for a quarterback. Like Josh was saying, they drafted him. They did more than that. They traded up for him and drafted him. What 20 to 11?
Yeah.
Draft him, right?
Yeah.
A few years ago. But that cannot be forgotten as this story plays out. Like if Justin Fields has an outstanding season, like there's been a few questions already about his MVP candidacy, and maybe that's for another podcast, but the last regime was the one who drafted him, and Josh Lucas, our last guest here, played a part in that.
And I think it's significant that, he was incredibly complimentary of what Ryan Poles has done with this coaching staff, especially. Like, I thought his answer to the question about how the coaching staff handled Justin Fields was very notable. Because look, speaking of egos that were that we all have, that he mentioned there towards the end, like it would. We've seen plenty of egos in the NFL. He could be like, screw these guys. They took my jobs, right? And instead, I thought it was very significant how complimentary he was, and how he basically confirmed everything with the Justin Fields evaluation, right? They had the same concerns about getting rid of the ball and how fast he's processing, but he seems bullish that if surround him with the right talent, that it's still going to take off with him this year.
Everything he was saying there kind of reminded me what Nate Tice said a lot, is that was a home run hitting offense, right? Where they had these amazing receivers and they had such a good offensive line.
You're talking about Ohio State.
Yes. Yeah. Where Fields looked for those. He was told to look for those shots. Now it's different in the NFL when he's playing against that offensive line last year and a couple of years ago. Things are different. There's going to be a call to transition, have you? It's not going to be easy. A lot of success at Ohio State, but the tools are there. And you know what? The conversation about Tyson Bagent. So you're keeping him if you're the Bears, right?
Yeah,
that's
right.
That's what Josh Lucas would do.
Even though he admitted that if he was on the other side, he probably wouldn't recommend claiming him.
Yeah, but that's like that's what I enjoyed about this conversation.
I agree.
It's those dynamics. It's trying to put yourself in the other team's shoes for a bit. Like, what are they going to do? Like, who's desperate for a quarterback? All it takes is one team, right?
Right. And I think there is one team. There's always a team, especially that position.
Yeah. Yes.
You're always desperate for that position. All right. Well, hopefully everyone enjoyed that. I found it fascinating. We went longer than we were going to just because it was so interesting. So thanks to Josh for coming on, and I have a feeling we'll hear from him again.
Yeah, we'll have him again.
So that was great. And let's see, where are we in this week? There's another preseason game, basically 48 hours away as this goes out on Thursday. And we'll be back early next week to kind of recap everything that happens. At this, part of the reason why we did this episode here is because at the time we're taping, we don't necessarily know who's playing. They might not even tell us till right before the game, for all we know. So we thought it was a good idea to hear from someone who sits in those meeting rooms and grinds tape. As soon as this game's over Saturday, Ryan Poles and his front office staff, they have basically 72 hours to make all their decisions and get it down to 53 on Tuesday. And then we're going to hear from Ryan Poles and Ian Cunningham on Tuesday with their with their take on everything after those decisions are made and the roster is at least briefly finalized, because everyone knows 24 hours later there's more changes.
Yes. What did Josh say? That 48, right? That's like
he said the last
first 30.
He said the last 10 players don't matter. No, I'm just no, he just said that.
He's exaggerating a bit there, but yes, I think the point is made that
But they're not going to
it's
make or
fluid.
break your season is his point. And that is true.
Yeah.
I
think you're always hoping for that like one starter to maybe emerge from that back end in time, because I think we've seen a couple stories like that, or at least someone who becomes a contributor for a couple years or for a couple games. But you're right. Let's not overreact to the first 53-man roster, which is going to change in a matter of hours.
Yeah. All right. Well, follow us on Twitter at Adam Hoge, at Adam Jahns. We'll have all the coverage, as we always do, for you on game day, after game day. I'm sure roster projections will go out as we still make a big deal over the last few roster spots.
Yeah, we'll have one out Monday.
Yeah.
Forget what I said. Please check it out.
And we can laugh because you're still going to read it.
True.
It's because we're all fans at heart and love football. So it's great. And I also want to give a quick shout out before we get out of here. Just all the high school football teams starting their seasons tomorrow night. Friday Night Lights back. I'm excited. I'm jacked up. We already had our walkthrough this morning, avoiding the heat. Did the early morning walkthrough and get out on the field tomorrow night. I'm excited, but I honestly feel robbed that if there's anything over the 9 years of us doing this show that has changed. I mean, on one end, there's stuff that hasn't changed at all, like John's love for Kirk Cousins. But when we started this show, our bit was you would make fun of college football, and I wouldn't let you talk about high school football.
And now we talk more about high school football, and that college football segment is long gone.
It's long gone.
A win for Adam Jahns.
Double
win.
Win.
Hanging out with me too much.
Not only do we talk about it, but I'm literally on a coaching staff.
Yes. We actually talk about it more like off camera than anything.
All the time.
Yes.
Yeah. And there is a big Carmel Notre Dame game later in the season.
Oh, yes. Cole Clement enjoys these conversations. He actually starts them with us in the locker room.
Yes, he does. And there's another Carmel St. Viator game this year. So I don't know if he'll talk to me that week, but we'll see. Hopefully Cole's doing okay.
Is his brother starting there?
I assume so. I haven't had a chance to talk to him yet.
Yeah. Hopefully Cole is okay, by the way. That's for another show.
I think his brother is a junior now. So if it's anything like Cole, he's probably pretty damn good at football.
Yeah.
So So anyway, we're out of here. Good luck to all the teams starting tomorrow night. It's going to be a lot of fun this season, and it's going to cool down, thank God, because as we're recording this right now, it's just ungodly hot outside. But Friday is going to be a nice, cool evening. Lights will be on. We'll have lots of fun. Then we turn right around. Bears game on Saturday. We'll have all the reaction for you. Read The Athletic, theathletic.com/Hoge Jahns. CHGO will have you covered with pre- and post-game on Saturday. And obviousshirts.com. Oh, the golf outing tomorrow. The Obvious Shirts. Oh, man, it went full screen on John's there on YouTube just to get the polo. The polos are great. Obviousshirts.com. Check them out. The hats are, you might have seen my Instagram the other day. I got some samples, and they should be for sale very, very soon. I know I keep teasing them, but they're coming. And then we'll update you on how, because the Obvious Shirts guys are joining us in a foursome tomorrow, and apparently they want to win this thing.
Let's go. Let's do it.
We'll see. We'll see if maybe someone at CHGO can pay me off to sandbag, and I might be in an advantageous situation here.
Talking about character concerns.
That's going to be my excuse if I suck, though. I'm just trying to set myself up for failure.
For success, for other forms of success.
Yes. All right, we'll talk to everyone next week.
See ya.